didn't put him up to this.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
I'm not gonna give it to you. All right, thank you. Sorry, I think it longer.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Our next speaker is Dave Ector. I work with Dave a lot on Cosmic too. I think that Dave had an incredibly important role on Cosmic and the management side. So Dave.
And I'm assuming I know how to flip this thing. There's buttons, that button there.
Is forward, backward,
Cool.
light.
All right, all right. And that was actually rocket fuel they gave Rick. It's fine. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I know I've had a hard time hearing today. That's good because I was going to go down and grab one of those mics. So anyway, I came on Cosmic, I came on this whole project, GPS Met through Cosmic One, kind of late 2001. UCAR had just finished going through a couple program managers before me. There was Mike Exner and there was somebody in between. I don't remember their name, but didn't stay very long. And then I interviewed to come work for UCAR. I was actually working at a spinoff from Inmarsat in London at the time. And I'd come out of $1 billion program. So when I hear Bill talking about passing the cup around or looking for 10K or 100K, these kind of things, I came from a completely different world. And so when I came over and Bill asked me, he said, well, this is what we need you to do as program manager. We need you to build 18 payloads, 2 ground stations, and we need you to buy a rocket and make sure this whole thing gets launched. And I said, what's my budget going to be? He said, 42 million. I said, I didn't want to tell him that was impossible because I actually wanted to move from London back here to Colorado because I'd come from Colorado previously. So I didn't tell him I thought that was impossible. And fortunately enough, we managed to get it done, but I still have no idea how it happened. As Rick said, it's a lot of luck involved. What was on the books to get to do was 2 ground stations, 1 at Fairbanks, one in Sweden, 18 flight payloads, and a bunch of EMs as well. So it wasn't just 18. And then a launch vehicle, Minotaur 1, which is I think we were number 4, is that right? Or Minotaur. So it was very early in the Minotaur program. Our chances of success on that launch was something like, I don't know, no, chances of failure was something like 1 in 68. That we're going to go bang at that point in the project because it had fairly successful launches before us. I actually wanted this in this slide before we even get started to recognize JPL. Without the RO receiver tech, we would have never had Cosmic One. And I do want to mention too that when I came on the project, one of the things that I noted was there was this, others have talked about it. There was this big contention between JPL and UCAR, and I was kind of perplexed by the whole thing because I'd been down to JPL and they seemed like great people, and not only that, they invented the tech, and boy, we better get close to them and we better get along, or this thing's not going to happen. So I think I had a sort of a come to Jesus moment at UCAR. I said, guys, we got to cut this distrust thing and we got to start working with JPL. They're good people. They're smart. They're the best in the business. Just get on with the job. So yeah, I think I really did work hard to try to build a positive relationship with JPL. I caught a bit of hell from some of the people at UCAR at the time because I guess there was past, feelings and that sort of thing. But I think we did begin to start working closer together at that point. Also, I wanted to mention Chris McCormick, and I was really happy to see him here. I want to acknowledge Chris's work before I came on the project. Chris actually had come in and was consultant to UCAR and put together a program framework prior to program start as a consultant to UCAR, including program design, cost, schedule estimates, and he nailed it. It was almost like I went with Chris's playbook and I just cracked the whip, and it worked. And Chris was, he called it, and he did a wonderful job of putting that together. And I want to acknowledge that because I don't think you've gotten that credit as for some reason, and just want to give it to you. Ground stations, these are pictures. We'll just keep going. I'm trying to stay on schedule. Payloads, actually we started with with JPL's design, and then that was tech transferred over to Broadreach Engineering, which Chris McCormick ran the company. It's his company, and there was a great JPL did a great job of tech transfer, and I will say that Broadreach was really quick picking it up. So you know, give credit both sides. The beacon, the receiver itself had about a 2-month slip getting everything done. I thought that's excellent considering its primary payload. Beacon on budget, no slip. TIP, which is tiny ionospheric photometer, which is built at NRL, and on budget, no slip. Quite a small payload. Satellite integration, Orbital built and integrated the first satellite. And these were these were Orbcomm buses that they pulled off of a shelf and refurbished and then jammed cosmic stuff into. So there's a lot of old tech in there, old battery tech. I think one reaction wheel. I mean, just really just old stuff, but managed to get it refurbed and get it to work. And the picture in the middle shows the size of the satellite. You can see just a little thin wafer, about 1 meter across. And as you see, they stack them up, and actually Taiwan built and integrate the last 5. So a lot of this work was done in Taiwan. Minotaur rocket. This was kind of a semi-miracle in my book, because I came from the world of of $600 million launch vehicles, and we had a budget of $19 million to get this stuff into space. And Air Force came back. The bottom, the lower stage of this rocket was a solid, and it was from a Minuteman missile. Upper stage was a Taurus upper stage built by Orbital, and those two were integrated together. And see those 6 satellites stacked on top of the upper stage there. The schedule and cost performance of that rocket program was never to be beat again. I don't think there's ever been a program that launched for cheaper than that with a government launch vehicle. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the new commercial launchers that are going now. Regional schedule. This is it's kind of hard to believe, but we start out with a schedule of launching in the 4th quarter of 2005, basically December of 2005. We ended up launching in April. So that was the original schedule. So I will say to the team, you did an amazing job getting the job done, and it worked, and it didn't go bang. There are some funny things that happened along the way. Some of the people have talked about a few of these things. Let's talk about a couple of these. We discovered early on that the antennas were not working properly, working well at JPL, and we ended up having to put skirts on the antennas to get them working. I have to give Larry Young credit for that, but that was a big deal. The program wasn't going to work, and they managed to modify those antennas and get them to work. So another one I'll talk about. Let's talk about Taiwan flag before we go. Yeah, well, no, we'll go to EMI. Turns out the receiver itself, and I think pretty much we've learned that most GPS receivers do tend to interfere with themselves. And this receiver surely did that. We were terribly worried. We all shipped to the launch site, and we had this terrible EMI issue where the receiver was feeding back through the antennas. The EMI was coming out of the receiver into the antennas, and it was enough we were really worried that this was going to work properly. And both Tom Meehan and Larry Young were at the launch site, and with their little sniffer and and checking for the EMI and wondering where it's all coming from. That's when they discovered it was coming out of the receiver. Well, it was lucky enough, and it's just down to luck again. Orbital, when they finished buttoning up these satellites, they had a very thin piece of aluminum that they put on both sides of the satellite. And the minute they buttoned that satellite up, the EMI went away. That little piece of aluminum saved us. So we ended up having a nice, clean and payload that that worked really well. Taiwan flag. Taiwan, we went back and forth with Taiwan. They wanted a flag on the side of their rocket, and I thought that was probably fair since they were paying for most of the mission. But the Taiwan desk didn't think that was okay. Well, it turns out a group of kids from Taiwan won the contest for a poster to be slapped on the side of the rocket. We did not know at the time, but there happened to be a Taiwan flag about that tall on a little tiny boat on that big sticker. And the program manager from Taiwan at one point along the way was having a news conference with his Taiwan reporters and told them, well, you know, there is a Taiwan flag on that rocket. And of course, then the State Department came down on me and said, you get that Taiwan flag off the rocket. So I went to the Air Force, and the Air Force, I remember Gene Hockenberry just shaking his head going, that's ridiculous. The thing was this tall, right, on a rocket. So he runs up the top of the rocket with a Sharpie, and he puts an X through the flag. So I'll say that rocket launched with a Taiwan flag with a little tiny black X through it. Pretty much nobody knows that one. Finally, DITSA was our tech transfer series. At the launch site, we had an awful lot of issues with U.S. government trying to keep us from making sure we didn't pass, rocket type secrets on to the Taiwanese. And they were there in spades and causing us quite a bit of difficulty. At one point, they threatened to shut down the whole launch activity. At that point, the Vandenberg base commander stepped in. And I didn't know anything about this until after the fact. He stepped in and actually threw the guys off the base just before launch. He wouldn't allow them on the base. The other thing that happened was going on in the background is he actually had his own security people when they were meeting with DITSA because they did not trust him as they were wearing wires and recording conversation because they didn't trust DITSA. So that's just a little side note most people don't know about. The final one with the Bill Quo talked about, and this will be it, Tony, is when you talked about the launch and aerospace came back and said our analysis says that the second satellite's going to pass the first. Well, I'm going to tell you not just the second satellite passed the first, the third satellite passed the first, the fourth, fifth, and to the sixth satellite passed the first. So all five of them passed the first. So, we went ahead and launched based on a 1 in 2,000 probability that the two were going to hit, but I guess it was a little worse than that. At the end of the day, it was a 1 in 86 chance that we were going to go bang. So I said, let's forget that one and move on, which is what we did. Just some pictures. There's a nice shot. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, no time for questions. Lydia, would you like to come up? Lydia Cucurella, I think a lot of you know her, and she was very important to the development of data